Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Akakwadash. And I want to say Shalom to Akmanakwath out there, pursuing this truth diligently. Coming at you once again with another lesson. And this is the 4th edition, all right, Lord willing, of America is in a state of societal decline. All right, America is in a state of societal decline. I know last time we did the recap, got everybody up to speed. Shouldn't need a recap. This time, you can go watch the previous videos if you'd like. But today, we're dealing with topic number 4, lesson number 4, topic number 4, titled Bread and Circuses, Modern Edition. Now, we'll go over here to ChatGPT. If it would stop messing up. Number 4. It says, Bread and Circuses, Modern Edition. People are distracted with entertainment, outrage cycles, celebrity drama, sports, streaming, dopamine feeds, not because life is good, but because it keeps people docile. Rome had games and spectacles. We have infinite screens. And as a matter of fact, just the other day when we were talking about Trump being Nero, we looked up how Nero was as a ruler, and he was tyrannical. But some of the people liked him because the things that he had, all right, the spectacles and the events and the games, people liked him, which is really a simple reason for thinking someone's a good leader, right? Because they put on good events. That's a pretty simple reason. But, those were Roman citizens, so Edomites are simple people, base men at the end of the day. And this society is mostly made up of Edomites and people that act like Edomites. All right? You got Jake out here that has Edomite-like mindsets. All right? Their culture is white culture, the living by the sword, dying by the sword. That's a white man culture, so-called white man culture, Esau. Okay, their blessing's the sword. Jacob's blessing was not the sword. All right, but you got Jake over here, shooting guns at each other, half-assedly, mind you. All right, sometimes people get hit. All right, and that's just how it is. But yeah, people are too busy with music, entertainment. Entertainment encompasses music, video games, books. And those things are all fine and well. All right, but you can't let that become where you're so enshrouded in that you don't even know what's going on in the world. All right, here it is. You're so deep in a book. All right, not the Bible, but you're so deep in a book. Sherlock Holmes or Bram Stoker's Dracula, or Catcher in the Rye, Animal Farm, 1984, whatever you happen to be reading, right? You can't be so deep in that book that you don't know that, all the stuff that Trump's doing right now, messing with Iran, all right, talk about Greenland invasion, all right, doing all these different, colonization campaigns, for lack of a better word. You can't let that get you messed up in the mind and to the point where you're not realizing that, okay? You don't even know what's going on. You don't even know what's going on in the world, but you can say what's going on in a book, all right? You can tell what's going on in a video game, but you have no idea about, any of the things going on, right? And of course, you don't have to know every single thing. No one's going to be able to know every single thing, but you should know the big events, all right? I mean, everybody pretty much knows what, the things going on with Minnesota and ICE, all right? The talk of annexation of Greenland and Canada, really. Less talk about Canada now, more talk about Greenland, all right? The things with all the shit that's going on, China, El Salvador, Venezuela, just Cuba, all right? There's a lot of different things that are going on with people that are turning against the United States. I mean, the Dutch, the German president, as well as was it the Dutch president or ambassador? He was talking about NATO being dissolved. German president was talking about how the U.S. is harming the world order. All right, you got to know these things. All right, and at least a part. All right, but they, YouTube shorts and TikToks and Snapchat and Instagram reels and TV shows and all these things are keeping these people, their brains all messed up, all right? So they don't really see what's going on, all right? They don't really know what's going on. So that's the modern version of bread and circuses, right? People are distracted with entertainment, outrage cycles. That's planned, what's the word for it? Planned opposition, all right? Or artificial opposition is what they've done. They've created that, all right? It's controllable outrage, all right, is really what it is. Controllable opposition, all right? That's what they do. And outrage cycles, all right? They keep you mad at one thing while in the background they're doing something else, all right? That's their sneakiness, all right? They'll keep you mad about ICE. Meanwhile, there's other shit, all right, that's going on in the background. And, not that, you wouldn't be mad about ICE. Yeah, it's a fucking invasion. But at the end of the day, you can't get so focused on that you don't realize that they're probably doing other shit in the background that you're not looking at. So it says celebrity drama. They love that with things like Vice and TMZ. Not so much Vice, but TMZ, all these different magazines, Cosmopolitan, or all this fucking, women's sex shit. And then they keep all those, USA Today, all these different, different things, with minor news channels. Good Morning America, which is like a... it's like The View, shit like that, all right? And the celebrity drama, they talk about all the happenings and shit. It's not really even real news. Sports, all right? People like sports. We get it, all right? Sports are nice, but you can't be so focused on, the Super Bowl, who's going to go to the Super Bowl, that you forget all of your priestly duties. Streaming, dopamine feeds, again, not because life is good, but because it keeps people docile. Rome had games and spectacles. We have infinite screens, all right? And so let's go ahead. I want to go ahead and look up what the word docile means. All right, docile.
Docile.
Willing to accept control or instruction, submissive. And again, this is not to Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. This is being, accepting control and instruction from Esau. All right, to the point where it clouds your right judgment. All right, it clouds your ability to judge righteous judgment. Here it is. The Bible says all these things, and you've decided because of Esau telling you one thing or another, you said, "Oh no, what they're doing is right. They would know." All right, that's docile, and they want you that way. All right, they want you like a Play-Doh person. All right, where they can bend you and squeeze you and mold you and keep you as how they want to shape you. All right, because once you become unmoldable, you really become an enemy of them, an enemy of the state. All right, so where are we here? I wanted to get it says, 1 Peter 5:8. All right, so that will be the first one we start up with. I guess it's we'll start up with it. I was thinking if there's anything else I wanted to get before I got it, but no, this is fine. 1 Peter 5:8 says, "Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour." And really, that's pretty much it. We don't need to get the, we'll get 9. It says, "Whom resist steadfast in the faith, knowing that the same afflictions are accomplished in your brethren that are in the world." And then we'll go to 10. It says, "But the power of all grace, who hath called unto us his eternal glory by Hamashiach Yahweh Shai, after that ye have suffered a while, make you perfect, establish, strengthen, settle you." So, going back, all right, you have to be sober and be vigilant. Now, we're going to define both these words. What does it mean to be sober-minded? And that's what it's really talking about. Or sober. We'll just get sober. Define sober. And it's sober of mind, because sober can be used for someone who's not under the influence of drugs, all right, but it can also be used another way. All right, now it says sober. It says not affected by alcohol, not drunk. It says to make or become serious, sensible, solemn, which is good. Not necessarily. What does it mean to be sober? Not intoxicated. Really be, drunk off the wine of this place, of Babylon's wine. Let's go to Cambridge. There's another definition of sober, though, that they're not getting. All right. It should be, being in well judgment. Let's see. They say serious and calm. Here's what we'll do. Sober meaning in the Bible. What is the Bible's definition of sober? All right. It says in the Bible it means far more than just not being drunk. All right, because if you can get drunk every once in a while, right? But you shouldn't be overly intoxicated. But by technical definition, drunk. If you have a couple brews and you're under the influence, all right, some people might consider it buzz, depending on what level you are. Sometimes it pushes into drunk. You shouldn't be doing it every single day. All right. That doesn't mean you can't drink. You can drink. You can get a little tipsy, but it shouldn't be an all the time thing. All right, and again, drunk is subjective. All right, to some people being pretty heavily buzzed, that crosses over into drunk. Legally, you're drunk. Are you drunk? Well, it's drunk to me. There's buzzed, and then drunk. Drunk is usually, more so. If you really want to get to what really drunk is, you really should never be getting drunk. Drunk is when you spiral out of control. That's drunk. All right, being heavily buzzed or a little bit intoxicated, that's one thing. But being drunk to me is you're throwing up. All right, you're in the toilet, you're spinning, you're getting the spin outs. All right, everything feels, the room feels like it's leaning on you. All right, you might have that a little bit with a little bit of intoxication, a little bit of tipsiness, a little bit of a buzz, but it ain't like with how it is when you're drunk. All right. So, but it says here a state of mental clarity, self-control, alertness, and again, self-control. You can still be under the influence of alcohol and still have self-control. There's a level where you get so intoxicated or drunk that you don't have self-control anymore. You're pissing on yourself, and that's really what drunk is. You should never be like that, pissing on yourself, falling down the stairs, not able to stand up. That's what I would consider drunk. All right, now legally, or how people use it, drunk is you're intoxicated. Drunk is when you've had far too much, as far as I'm concerned. There's buzzed, and then there's drunk. If you're drunk, you've had too much. All right, so the state of mental clarity, self-control. A drunk really, to continue on with that, a drunk really can't carry on a conversation. Someone who's buzzed or a little intoxicated can. Someone who's drunk, that's drunk. Slurring your words so much you become essentially retarded. All right, that's drunk. So you should never be getting like that. It says a state of mental clarity, self-control, alertness, and sound judgment. It's a perfect one right there. So it's free from the influences of sin. None of us are really free from the influence of sin, all right, because we're in this, we go off every day. None of us are perfect, all right, but, so free from the influences of sin, it's to the best of your ability, right? It says worldly distractions, absolutely. Your passion, allowing for clear spiritual perception and readiness. And again, with distractions, you got to be careful with that, because Jay goes, well, ain't TV a distraction? It is. Does that mean I can never watch TV? No, you can watch TV. All right, you can still watch TV and be sober-minded, but you can also watch TV so much that you're not sober-minded. So, don't do it in excess. All right, and what I mean by that is, if you watch TV for 12 hours, all right, and that time, you probably, at some point, you probably should have seen some amount of news, whether you're on your phone or whatever, you should have seen something. Again, as a man doing your priestly duties, finding things that are, talk about the state of the world, making lessons, all right, a woman should, be privy to what's going on as well. All right, she shouldn't be completely out in the dark. She's not going to have it like a man's going to have it, but she should know that, Trump's doing some crazy shit right now, and these Edomites are getting ready for this mark. If she's a godly woman, all right, then, she should be, watching and waiting for prophecies as well, because that means she's out. All right, Lord willing, saved through her husband. All right, so 1 Peter 5:8, be sober, be vigilant. We didn't get vigilant. Let's go and look up vigilant. All right. Vigilant. Keeping careful watch for possible danger or difficulties. So watchful. All right. Being
vigilant.
Sober and watchful, on the lookout. All right. So, on the watch. And, these again, you can play video games. if you do your lessons and all that, you can play video games for a good amount of time. You can binge a movie. You can watch 2 or 3 movies if you want. But the fact of the matter is that it would always be better if you were doing something for the Lord, all right, no matter what. We could always be doing more. If you do 1 lesson a day, you could be doing 2 lessons a day. If you do 3 lessons, you could be doing 4. You could wake up and do nothing but lessons if you wanted. That would be the best thing to do it. But we know in this flesh, it's not that easy, all right? So if you watch a couple of movies, as long as you, one, as a man, got your duties done, you're praying, all right, you're watching, you check the news, you see what's going on, you watch a couple of videos, all right, doing at least an hour or 2 of lessons, all right, maybe made a post or something, just making sure you're fulfilling your priestly role and duties as a man, all right, making sure the flock is being fed, all right, your lessons are going out, you're making one lesson at least a day. All right, you're, sometimes, I try to do 1 lesson and then 2 lessons and I try to, go back and forth with it every other day. So you'll see one day I'll do 1 lesson and 2 posts, and then the next day I'll do 2 lessons and 1 post. And I try to, keep myself, busy, all right, through, in doing this truth. All right, because like I said, it's not that hard to do an hour to 2 hours of lessons, whether it be, an hour of watching lessons and an hour of making a lesson, or however you divide that time. I usually try to do at least 2 hours a day. I set a 2-hour timer and I try to do it that way. I know not everybody's going to be doing that way, but try to find what works for you. Like I said, an hour and a half movie goes by quickly. All right. So if you have time, watch 1 movie, you have time to, do your lessons, all right? And that should come before watching a movie, all right? So, but anyway, that's what vigilant means. It says, because your adversary, the devil, that's Esau, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. So he's out here doing this little sly shit, all right? The modern, the Roman of the day, all right, as he's called now, is Esau, because they got dissolved in, as he's called today. As he's called today, the so-called white man, as he was called the Edomite. Then he was called, the Roman. Then he was called the Caucasian, white man, the European, all right? All these different things. European, then the white man, all these different things, right? And he's trying to distract you, all right? That's ultimately why these things are here, is for distraction, right? And you, like I said, you can read books, play video games, watch movies, draw, go for a drive, do what you do, all right, as long as it's not inherently wicked, and that's fine, all right? You just can't let it get to the point where you're not fulfilling your priestly duties, you're not making lessons, you're not watching lessons, all right, you're not checking the news, all right, or whatever sources it is that you go and see what's going on with the world. You can't let it get to that point, all right, where you're just waking up, hopping on the game or a movie and not doing anything else but a game or a movie all day, all right. You didn't make a lesson, you didn't watch any lessons, you can't do that. And again, once you do the lessons, the more you do, the better. All right, like I said, ideally, it would be best if we didn't watch any TV, play any games, read any book other than the Bible, and just did it that way. But that's really, that would be, if you think you could do that, that would really be almost a form of unrighteousness, because, not unrighteous, over-righteousness, because it's hard. All right, now I'm sure there's some men out there that are close to getting to that point. All right, but even the apostles, the Apostle Gabar at least, listens to music. Right, Slakia, 1 Peter 4:7, and there's nothing wrong with listening to music, all right, but that is constituted as time, right, that is not spent on the Lord, all right. And again, not that he's doing anything wrong, I'm not condemning him or anything, I'm just saying, in a perfect society, all right, every single action we would do would be for the Lord, but in this body, it's impossible. All right, it's impossible to do that. And we'd be keeping all the laws and doing that. But again, we can do the best of our ability and rehearse the righteous acts. We're not going to be perfect. In these current states and these current bodies, after a while of watching lessons, your body will actually, your mind will get burnt out. Okay, and it's like that not just with lessons, but with anything. All right, and when I first was opened up to that concept, when I went to a vocational rehabilitation, all right, which a vocational rehabilitation, in general, what is it? It's basically for people, a learning institute, really. What is a vocational rehab? I'll give you the actual definition. It says, a vocational rehab helps people with disabilities prepare find, maintain, or advance in employment by providing personalized services like counseling, skills training, job placement, and assistive technology aiming to help them achieve career goals. And it's not only just disability. It can also be for people that are recovering drug addict. It's not like a rehab for like drugs. It's people that had already like stopped doing the drugs, and they might have, they might have not done so well in school. With my case, it was technically a disability because I'm not good at math, and that's what I ended up going there for, was actually with math issues. All right, being able to learn math better. All right, and in a better way, because they were trying to figure out, I didn't learn math well in school. All right, and basically it's because it's pretty much almost like math dyslexia. All right, it's like how people with dyslexia, they see letters different word. When I see math, it be blowing my mind sometimes. I can do basic multiplication, addition, multiplication, addition, subtraction, of course, a little bit of division. But once you get into certain points, I'm just not good at it. And still, that would be considered a high school level. I'm just not good at it, man. You start asking me, find what X is. I'm gonna be for real. You're gonna have to find it on your own, because I don't know where that shit is. But anyway, that's how I ended up there. And when I went there, I had this. I think he was a small hat, honestly, but he was teaching me, and the way he taught it. You see, when they're in schools, and that's the other thing with schools. Schools serve to indoctrinate. Okay, they don't really serve to teach. You either, they sit you down, they teach you one way. If you don't get it, they're not going to give you really hands-on help. All right, they're going to say, why aren't you getting it? And then they'll just send you to a remedial, all right, a remedial math or a remedial class. And in there, if you don't get it, well, you just don't get it. I guess you're just dumb, right? And they might pass you, they might fail you, they might pass you just to get you on, but that's about it. They never really help you like they should. And this guy, this tutor, all right, that they gave me, he actually taught me, because at the time I could barely even do multiplication. Man, it was bad. It was real bad. And he helped me, right? Helped me do it. And the one thing I was rambling all this about, giving you a little story so you know where it went. You know me, I like to yap, but he told me, because I would come in and it was all on my terms. All right, it wasn't like something I was forced to do. All right, going to a vocational rehabilitation center is something that you do on your own. If you're trying to, if you are struggling because you can't read, or you're having issues with math or whatever, and you want to learn better so you can, further yourself and get better jobs, then you can go and do that. All right, it's a free program. All right, they help you through it. I don't know if the state pays for it. I assume with all those programs, the state pays for it. But yeah, and so it was on my terms. I would go in. If there was a day I couldn't make it, it wasn't like I got docked points or anything. And we would sit and learn until I could not anymore. All right, and he told me something. You're like, get to the fucking point. I'm getting there. But one day he told me we were working on something, and he said, so how are you doing? I see that you've gotten better with this, all right, and you learned this today. Do you feel like you could learn more today, or is your brain kind of hurting? All right, and you know that feeling when you packed a lot of information in, your brain starts to kind of get almost like a burnout feeling. You just know how it feels. I can't really describe how it feels, but it's like, wow, I've got a lot of information. I need to kind of sit on this and absorb it, right? It's the same thing with eating, all right? You eat and eat and eat, and you have to stop eventually so your body can digest it. If you don't digest it, you're going to vomit it, okay? And it's the same thing with this, the truth. It says, hast thou found honey, eat so much as is sufficient for you, lest you be full therewith and vomit it, roughly paraphrasing. So you don't want to, get to the point where you're eating, trying to really be over-righteous. All right, say, this is all I'm going to do. And then half of that stuff you're not even retaining. All right, because that's the one thing he told me. I don't know if it's scientific or whatnot, but you can only retain so much information in a setting. All right, after a while, you could keep on teaching me what's 30 times 40. All right, 30 times 40, 30 times 40, and doing this up and moving it up. But after a while of doing that for 2 hours, your brain's going to be like, okay, it's I don't know how to explain it, but you brothers and sisters know. So that's another thing. Don't try to be over-righteous and think that you can do, 24 hours or less. I'm not going to even sleep. It's some of that stuff you're not going to remember. All right, and that's why it's always better to take notes too. All right, but after a while, it's something that happens. All right, so do as much as you can do. All right, that's what I would recommend. So 1 Peter 4:4, it says, this isn't it. 1 Peter 4:7. All right. It says, 1 Peter 4:7, it says, but the end of all things is at hand. Is it not? Are we not in the end? It says, be ye therefore sober, there's that word again, and watch unto prayer. All right, so 1 Peter 4:7, let's go and get that. And the, what is the Bible Gateway? 1 Peter 4:7. We're going to get in the AMP, Lord willing. Okay, here in the AMP, it says, the end and culmination of all things, there's a great word, culmination, all right, the buildup. It says, of all things is near. Therefore, be sound-minded and self-controlled for the purpose of prayer, staying balanced and focused on the things of Yahweh, so that your communication will be clear, reasonable, specific, and pleasing to Him. It's good, all right? It's good. So yeah, man, don't, you can't let these distractions distract you at the end of the day. And again, like I said, you're going to have times where you play video games or watch sports or whatever, but you can't let that get in the way of your walk in this faith, man. All right? So let's get Sirach 6:15. It says, or why did I do 6:15? It should be 5 and 15. Right? So Ecclesiastes 5:15, a scripture that most of y'all will be familiar with. Be not ignorant of anything in a great matter or a small. So that's part of being watchful. Okay? Watching. And not letting something get over on you. Right? Like when you see a place and everywhere is tap to pay now. A lot of places aren't even accepting dollar payments no more. All right, bills. All right, paper money. That's something you shouldn't be ignorant of. Why is that? Because they're getting ready to completely switch this over to 100% digital. Right now, it's like 90% digital. Right? You can most places you can still pay with cash. There's going to be a time where cash is no longer accepted. All right, it's going to be digital only. All right, and then there's going to be a time after it's digital only, and it might, like the apostle say, it might be on your phone. All right, and then it's going to come to the point where they're going to want to insert that into you. All right, now using the phone app, that's not taking the mark of the beast. But once they say, oh, you need to get this chip, the RFID chip that they implant, that is the mark of the beast. All right, and you can't repent from that if you get it. You're done. You're assed out. All right, you can't turn back from that. All right, that's basically saying I don't care about God. Fuck all that. I want to stay here with Esau. That's essentially what taking that mark is. Okay, so, and those that like to scoff and mock, say, oh, you guys use swear words, you're going to take that mark. You're going to take that mark. You're going to take the mark of the beast. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. You're going to take it. So Matthew 24:38, it says, and this is the other thing that I got this one. This wasn't necessarily one of the ones that was written down, but I was thinking about this. This is the same stuff, all right? It's the same thing, with Rome. It's the same things that was happening in the days of Noah, and it's the same way that things are going to be coming in the future, right? So it says, we got to get from 37. It says, but as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. So that's going to be the same way. The way, the days before the floods, it's the same way right now in the end days. We're in Jacob's trouble right now, as it's going to be when Yahushua shows up. People are going to be preoccupied, doing what they're doing, all right? And then boom, all right, it's just going to happen. It's going to be too late. It's going to be too late to turn back, all right? In verse 38, it says, for as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage until the day that Noah entered into the ark. And with this, there was probably festivities, all right, parties, events, all right. Meanwhile, Noah was taking him and his family and getting in the ark and being prepared to get the hell up out, all right. Meanwhile, oh, no, that's shit. You wasted your life on that, Noah. You wasted your time, man, all right. Don't you want some alcohol? No, thank you. Shut the door. and then, they all laughed and mocked and did all that until that first drop of water hit them right on their damn foreheads. Then it changed. All right? And we already know how it acted. Everybody was real quiet in 2020. All right? It had scoffers and mockers in 2018, 2019, everybody talking shit. All of a sudden, this plague starts, sweeping across all of the world, and everybody's real fucking quiet. Real fucking quiet during the pandemic. All right? Now, I remember seeing the videos. All right? I was on the brothers' comment boards, on the live streams heavy. There were scoffers, but there wasn't nearly as many as there are right now. All right? There were scoffers before, and there's scoffers after. But y'all are kind of quiet for a little bit. All right? Because y'all were listening, because you were fucking scared. And I said, oh, we're going to reopen, and then all you scoffers came back. Oh, we're fine, right? Well, when they shall say peace and safety, Matthew 24:39, it says, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away. So shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. So there you go. That's that bread and circuses. You're going to be so focused and eating and drinking and bidding in marriage. You're going to be going to festivals and TV and video games to the point where you're not watching anything, and then bam! When did this happen? Well, you would have seen it coming if you were watching. Well, really, you only seen it coming if you were watching, if the Spirit, Yahweh Shem Shai, the Holy Spirit's working with you. But, yeah, man, this is why you can't be ignorant of anything, all right? When you see these things, whether it's big or small, something small could grow very big, all right? And something very big could end up diminishing down to nothing. You just never know, all right? You got to watch. All right, you got to watch. Some of those big things are distractions and will never really come to anything. And some of those small things are the real things that will eventually grow to be big. All right, that's keep that in your mind. All right, think about that. So that's where we're gonna close out. All right, make sure you're watching, man, because that's the bread and circuses right there. They're kind of trying to keep you distracted, and that's their ultimate goal, to keep you distracted. And going back into 2 and 3, 2 and well, this one should be 3. Bear with me. So, this one, so fix that. So, 2, political paralysis and constant infighting. They're keeping you fighting, all right? They're, doing all the things with the comment. Keep you distracted, all right? And they're going to move in, and they're going to whoop your ass, man. So, that's where we're going to close out. Lord, when it was edifying. Again, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakak Wadash. Shalom, you brothers and sisters out there. Keep enduring. Keep the faith. We're almost out of here. Till next one, Lord willing. Shalom.